My very first job was as a teacher, and I don't think I will ever get out of the mode of being a teacher. So today is going to be a history lesson for us, because I think foundations, and as Chairman Gant said earlier, history is extremely important. Growing up, I was fortunate to spend lots and lots of time with my grandfather. He built buildings for a living. He started out with designing the facility on paper. He poured solid, lasting foundations, and then he finished the buildings. He did all the painting on the inside, all the plumbing. He laid all the brick. He poured all the floors. In those days, that's what people who built buildings did. And from watching my grandfather, I learned the importance of what goes in to building a solid foundation, not only for structures, but for our institutions and our individual lives. My grandfather would meticulously start by making sure the soil that the foundation was going to be built on could actually support the building. And Jason, as an engineer, you know how important that is. He knew that the components of the soil were important to the stability of the foundation, and thus the stability of the building that would be built on it. The wrong kind of soil could spell disaster. And I learned from watching him that there were actually different kinds of soil. Did you know that? Not all soil is the same. Some soils were primarily made up of sand. Others had large components of clay, while still others had lots of decayed plants and animal matter. He told me that if a soil was coarse, had a mixture of sand and something he called loamy sand, that water would drain through it quickly. And coarse textured soils made really good soil conditions for building buildings. They were good for most types of foundations. Fine texture soil, on the other hand, and they had a lot of clay and other matter in them, would expand because moisture would soak into them, and then during dry periods, seep out, and the soil would crack. Have any of you seen what happens when the soil cracks under your foundation? The lack of stability for these kinds of soils caused major disasters in foundations if you did not account for them before you built buildings on them. So with the right kind of soil, a strong foundation can be poured that will withstand climate changes and normal wear and tear of daily living. And over his lifetime, I watched my grandfather build many buildings on strong foundations. These buildings have stood the test of time, and even though my grandfather is gone, many of them are still serving the purpose they were designed for many years ago. Like buildings, great institutions require just the right soil for a solid foundation. They need foundations that will withstand political and social pressures. And as we know, throughout history, political and social pressures happen. One thing you know for sure is that Bergen Community College is by far one of the greatest community colleges in this nation. Its foundation is built on the right soil, and the college has provided the foundation for higher education for Bergen County since its inception. Institutional foundations are built by people like you, who have a passion to see the institution birthed and brought to life. In 1957, one such person, a visionary, who at the time was serving as the president of the PTA of Fair Lawn, New Jersey. That's right, the college exists because of Fair Lawn and a man named Edgar E. Moss. He had a vision to build a strong foundation for education for all of you. Mr. Moss and the county PTAs were extremely concerned that students who graduated from high school were not going to have a college to attend. And he believed that two-year colleges with their low tuition, their easy commuting distance, could provide that foundation for their education. Like my grandfather, Mr. Moss began testing the soil. He tested the soil of public opinion. And public opinion was ripe. In February 1958, a county-wide needs assessment committee was formed, and the work began to build our great college. Later on that year, when Mr. Moss was elected as a member of the Fair Lawn Board of Education, Peter Jacobson of Paramus and Mrs. Walter Whitman of Paramus took over leadership of this group. And with the assistance of both the Record, and I know I saw someone from the Record here earlier, and our county freeholders, Mr. Jacobson and Mrs. Whitman began and became the engineers who tested the soil. While this was difficult work, and I think Lori said it well when she said there will be times that are difficult, they stuck to the task at hand and they carried the process forward. Even though many times there was great controversy and sometimes even little support. On October the 20th in 1965, the dreams of Mr. Moss, Mr. Jacobson, Mrs. Whitman, and countless others from the community were brought to fruition when the Board of Chosen Freeholders passed a resolution to establish our great college. On November 3rd, 1965, the resolution officially became law. You know, the Board of Chosen Freeholders, you notice they're all here today? From the very beginning, they have been our supporters and our allies. And in fact, we are gifted today to have with us the remaining member of the original Board of Freeholders who established this college, Mr. Eugene Walsh. Mr. Walsh, please stand. As Lori said, we are standing on his shoulders. Once the college was established, the Board of Freeholders set out about to name the first 9 members of the Board of Trustees. Remember what you've read about the history of what was happening in the 1960s? No? It was a turbulent time. There were fights all over the place. And the freeholders were being pressured by all sides to put in place so many Democrats and so many Republicans. But Mr. Walsh and the Freeholder Board stood firm, and they nominated our first Board of Trustees 9 very distinguished members of the community, because they knew how important their work was going to be. Once the trustees were in place, then the college needed to hire a president. They needed to find a suitable place for the college to be located. And then they needed to find staff so that they could admit the first group of students. While there was an overwhelming support for hiring Dr. Sidney Silverman as our first president, there was not the same kind of support in the community for where the college should be located. During that time, community members seemed really concerned about traffic and what the college might bring to their neighborhoods. In fact, there was significant controversy that broke out over where the college should be located. But once again, our freeholders, Mr. Walsh, stepped up to the plate, and they told the community, we have an excellent group of trustees, and we are going to support them with the site on Paramus Road, which is exactly where the college was built. Throughout the years, the freeholders have continued to be part of our soil, along with Mr. Moss, Mr. Jacobson, Mrs. Whitman, and the many citizens who worked hard to build a solid foundation for each of you. We are indebted to them for their vision, their dreams, their insight, and their support. The college has also been built on a solid foundation of faculty, staff, and students who've contributed not only their gifts, but their service to make Bergen Community College the learning community that it is today. At this time, I would like to recognize a few of our founding faculty members. Professor Fred Gollop, who served as the chair of the very first graduation committee for the class of 1970. Professor of Business, Dorothy Gleckner. Professor of Wellness and Exercise Science, Compton Jenkins. Professor of Wellness and Exercise Science, Peter Martin. And Professor of Physical Science, Mauro Marzocco. We are indebted to this founding group of faculty and staff for their continued commitment to grow and nurture this college for you. 43 years ago, our first class of students sat exactly where you're sitting today. They played an important role in setting direction for the college, in supporting the college after they graduated, and being strong contributors to Bergen County. We are very privileged today to have members of the class of 1970 with us. And can I ask Leonard Gleason, Jackie Kosnotsky, Jane Merker-Wilson, Jane Okonoski, Sal Stamila, Dean Strawn, Earl Tufford, and Beverly Walker to stand and be recognized. Class of 2013. They were sitting here. They were our first class. Today, we honor you as you move from being Bergen Community College students to alumni of Bergen Community College. We are thankful for your contributions and for the legacy that you are leaving for future students who will follow in your footsteps. I've been honored over the past year to get to know many of you, and I want you to know that your commitment to this college and to the community we serve is exemplary. While you've all worked hard to manage classwork, family, jobs, and a myriad of other obligations while you were students, you have also contributed your time and your service to Bergen Community College and the community at large. Let's give them a round of applause for that. I know for a fact that many of you have volunteered your time as tutors, community volunteers. You've held countless food drives. You've worked to assist your fellow students, the staff, and the faculty during Hurricane Sandy. You were the first class to start a book exchange program. And I was honored a week ago to see the first scholarship awarded that came from you, the students, to help another student in need. You have indeed done many acts of kindness, and you have supported each other, you have supported the faculty and staff, and you are to be commended. You have had, over the past year, an extraordinary group of leaders leading your class. And at this time, I would like to ask Margarita, Michelle, Stephanie, Joe, James, and all of your senators to rise, and let's give them a big round of applause. Today, I want to commend each of you for who you are. But I also want to commend you for who you will become. For as you leave this place, as Lori and others have said, you take a piece of Bergen Community College with you. Whether you are headed for a 4-year institution of higher education, whether you're embarking on your dream career right now, or as many of you have told me, you're going to spend a year doing community service before you do anything else, you have made and will continue to make a difference. We are extremely proud of you and the foundation that you have put in place for all of the students who will come after you. Today, as you leave, you are going to receive 2 small but significant gifts from us. One is a copy of the poster that you see over on the side here. This poster has each of your names on it. It will be a reminder of you and to you of the great work you have done while you have been here. But more than that, we have now established a graduation hall, and your class will have the first graduation class poster hanging in the new graduation hall. We want your colleagues who follow you next year to know what they have to live up to. The second gift you are going to receive is an application. It's an application for you to join our Alumni Association. We hope that you're going to take a few minutes and fill out the application and return it to the college. Why? Because we need your continued energy, your intellectual capacity, your support, and the commitment you've shown while you have been here. Because of you, Bergen Community College is truly one of the greatest community colleges in the nation. And today we are pleased to honor a group of students who has definitely made a difference and who I know, I'm very certain, is going to make a continued difference in the world that we live in. Congratulations, class of 2013.